Chapter 11 Letters October. Dear Dream, we arrived in Rivaldo with very little issue. There was a moment on the road when one of our carriage wheels hit a nasty rock, cracking it in half. After finding the spare wheel latched to the underside, we struggled for a day to replace it. A friendly family of musicians dressed in bright colors stopped to help us change the wheel. I offered to pay them for the help. However, they only wanted our company for the night and to tell them stories about the monsters in the sacred tree. I told them that should they ever be in need of the golden fruit, to tell you how you helped us. The city is so much different than I imagined. Of course, I expected it to only be humans, but something felt odd about it. It's as if everything feels so much more serious around here. The people hardly smile. No one says good morning to you. Many folks either stare or look frightened of me. I wouldn't say people here are unfriendly, just so untrusting. When we arrived at the royal palace, Nero came out to greet me, twirling me in a big hug. It was so good to see him again. I can't wait to tell you more of what I learned in this place. He gave us a brief tour of the palace before presenting me to his father, the king. I gave the king your gift as you requested, which I already suspected was one of the apples. Somehow, I hadn't realized his servants visited you in the past. He sends his eternal gratitude, believing the apples have saved his life. Shortly after Nero left Edenfall, he was planning my arrival in Rivaldo. A room close to his was chosen for me and fitted so that Martlet and dog space was adjacent to mine. But that wasn't the most surprising part. Nero had been collecting presents to give to me once I arrived, my bed piled full of them. Most impressive was the closet of custom clothes he had commissioned, full of satin and silks, embroidered with moons and stars. I can't begin to tell you how beautiful they are. It was all so much, I have no idea how to express my gratitude for him. If only I could show you. Sometimes I feel overdressed compared to his siblings. There was one thing that had me unsettled, though. One of the presents. Nero presented me with a personal serf. But this was a human child who couldn't be any older than 9. Nero said that the child's father had worked up a lifelong debt and so had given their child to the crown in exchange. The child was assigned to serve me in paying off this debt, having been trained to wash clothes, tidy my room, and fulfill any simple requests. This didn't seem right. I held my tongue as I knew it wasn't unusual for humans to not treat children the best, especially those who lived beyond the laws of Edenfall. I feared that to refuse their service would have them sent into less caring hands. Asking the child's name, they couldn't answer. Nero said they were mute and I might as well name them whatever I pleased. It still didn't sit right with me. I couldn't just give someone a name, assuming the child must have one. Since the child was mute, I asked if they could write their name down. However, they were also illiterate. Nero gave me an odd look, as if it were foolish in me to think the child could read. I opted to call them Kiddo in the meantime. They gave a big smile when I said it. I think they liked the nickname. With that, Nero invited me to go to the tavern in the city with some of his friends. I was pleased by the invite, but my mind was still stuck on what to do with the nameless child now hanging out in my apartment. At first I asked if Martlet would look after them, but she insisted it was against her orders to leave my side. When Nero said the tavern was a men's-only establishment, she insisted that she would then wait outside for me.
Kiddo seems confident enough. I'm sure they'll be all right here with Dog, is what she said.
Honestly, I forgot the human societies had such heavily gendered segregation. It must have slipped Asgore's mind as well. I don't really want to replace Martlet per se, but could you see if Asgore might send a male royal guard to accompany me for just such scenarios? Indeed, the child was very delighted by the dog guard, who wanted to play with a ball I hadn't noticed they'd brought along. I don't remember the tavern. Martlet, Nero, and I walked down the canal until we were met by several men who were Nero's friends. They greeted me, though one made a comment about my short stature and questioned if I was an adult. I assured them that Nero and I were the same age. The next thing I remember was standing outside the tavern with Nero, then nothing. I woke up in my new bed, my whole body aching worse than any fever I'd experienced. Martlet woke me up after I passed out again, and I asked her what happened. She said I went into the tavern with the other humans for about 2 hours, then came out dizzy and asked to go to bed and kept calling her undying. Then I passed out in her arms. She brought me back with Nero following behind. She said Nero insisted I go back inside, that is, until I passed out. It seemed the party was over, at least for me. Can't help but feel upset about it. My first time getting to spend a day with Nero's friends, and I can't remember a thing. Can't even remember what I drank. I know I'd sneak sips of cider back home, but something about this. I'm just angry at myself now. How could I be so reckless and make myself sick? Kiddo brought me breakfast and tea, which again felt odd seeing a child doing work. I asked Martlet to have them show her where they were getting the food so she could bring it to me in the future. They became frightened, thinking I was saying that they were doing a bad job and might send them away. I assured them that it wasn't the case and that I wanted to get some books for them. Maybe it's a crazy idea, but maybe I could teach them to read the way Toriel taught us? Anyway, my head only started to clear the day after, so tomorrow I'll insist on beginning my studies. I hope to hear from you soon and how everyone is doing. I really miss you. Sincerely, your brother, Nightmare. December. Dear Dream, I've yet to hear word from you. This is my 3rd letter. I'm sure you're busy with your duties to the tree. I pray that our letters are not being lost in transit. Regardless, I must continue to write, if only to feel closer to home. My studies between private tutors and the university are going well. I was surprised to find that Nero hadn't been keeping up with his studies until I arrived. The king made a comment that I was a good influence on him when I had dinner with them one night. Nero is also very talented, especially gifted with powerful kindness soul. However, he lacks when it comes to conducting more complicated magic. I made several comments to him that he should consider practicing healing magic, as it would align strongly with his soul trait. I think something about the idea of being a healer bothers him, as he's always more interested in combat magic. The Yuletide festival will be here soon, but it doesn't feel as festive as it does in Edenfall. Everything here is so gray and dark. The shops don't have big windows like the ones back home, where they proudly display their wares. Merchants roll into the market square every morning to sell their goods and are usually departed before noon. It seems there's a greater focus on the feast here than gift-giving. There will also be a ball hosted in the palace, just as we have in Edenfall. I'm not really looking forward to it, the ball. Although the king adores me and wishes me to be present, something about the way he treats me, like I'm a child or a pet. Maybe I'm just exaggerating. I'd rather be spending my days in the lecture hall. There's so many wonderful mages who come from across the world to show their magic and explain their process for conducting it. I've already filled up 8 notebooks and my wrist hurts every time I depart, but I love it. Nero's fallen asleep a few times, but I think he's getting less interested in coming with me. Maybe he doesn't want to be a mage. Certainly I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but his father expects more from him due to his innate abilities. Talking with him about it, he says he's only doing this because he doesn't have anything else he wants to do. He really would be a good healer. Humans are usually happier when they follow their soul trait. I just wish I could convince him that kindness in his soul, if only he embraced it. Kiddo is also doing well. After we were able to get some picture books for them, Martlet started reading to them each night to put them to bed. Dog didn't have a problem sleeping on the floor, giving up the spare bed. She's been helping them with writing the alphabet, but I don't think they've gotten to a point where they can spell their real name out. Kiddo still insists on doing servant things like keeping the room tidy or taking my dishes away to the kitchen. I'm not really sure if I should stop this behavior or what I'd even have them do instead. Maybe if you could ask Toriel for me? I asked the king about Kiddo's father, but he said he didn't recall who they were. I've asked Nero if he could get me further information about them, and he still hasn't. It would be best to have them reunited with their family if I can find them, and maybe the debt wouldn't be too much to pay off to set them free. But it's getting frustrating to keep asking and no one is giving me answers. Otherwise, I've managed to convince Martlet to take Kiddo and Dog out to walk around the city when I'm either studying or in my room or at the university. She's getting more relaxed about keeping to her duties and seems to be enjoying her stay. Well, mostly. The other guards won't talk to her, or when they do, they make unwarranted comments about how she looks and being a woman. She's attempting to find some lady friends instead. Some of the old spinster women in town have shown her kindness, but in her visits to them, she's brought back many strange things: yarn, thread, hammers, scraps of wood, and rusty nails and such. Margaret said she wants to design puzzles and traps one day. She's been using the various craft supplies she's collected to build miniature prototypes. It's very amusing to watch her when she gets focused on a new puzzle. Once I've convinced the three of them to get some fresh air, I'm usually in Nero's room or he's in mine. He takes in information better when someone is having a conversation with him. I've managed to get him to improve his glyph formations and sigil crafting. Though he's been asking a lot more questions about Monster Crind in the tree, things I've always been curious about as well. He found it unusual how I can eat and drink without any organs like humans have. When I explained that food in my mouth disappears into my soul, he wasn't satisfied, asking to take a look in my mouth. I let him. It was hard for him to see anything, and he accidentally pulled on my jaw too hard, so if you felt that, sorry. He was going to stick his hand in my mouth, but I didn't know what that would do. I was afraid he might lose a finger from it. He suggested putting something alive in my mouth to see if it would survive, but yeah, I didn't feel comfortable with that. Though he insisted he could get an animal to test it on, I told him I wasn't going to do it. I hope he forgets about it soon. He says I'm built like an oyster, with the only flesh inside my mouth. Not sure how I feel about that. There's also something else that's been bothering me. It's probably the thing I like least about this place. Well, actually, I really hate it. I've been hesitant to tell you because I didn't want you to worry. The palace here has a courtyard where public executions are conducted. It's something that's been difficult for me to explain, and I prefer not to think about it. But it's always back there, in the back of the palace, in the back of my mind. After breakfast each morning, there's always at least one public execution scheduled. The king goes to see them. Nero often accompanies him, and so I feel compelled to go along as well. The first time I saw it, I tried to look away, but Nero pushed my face forward. He said, "Real men don't look away from death." I was a little upset. No one told me it was going to be an execution until I was in the chair next to the king. Luckily, he didn't make us watch every morning. Last time I didn't go, Nero didn't show up for the lecture at the university. Though I'm getting more used to seeing them, I don't find any pleasure from it. Unlike the king, he lets people from the city come and mock the prisoners before they die. Though they say these people have committed terrible crimes such as murder and worse, I hate it. I think that's all I have to say about it. Anyway, this letter has gone on far enough. I hope to receive word from you soon. Sincerely, your brother, Nightmare. February. Dear Dream, still awaiting correspondence from you. I've stopped counting the letters I've sent and grow tired of repeating details of things that have happened. In short, we still haven't found any information about Kiddo's family. Martlet has been taking them around to the locals to ask, but none of them find the child familiar. Kiddo has shook their head when we asked if they were originally from the city. Martlet is teaching them to read maps, but it confuses them, so there's been no results there. The last time I asked Nero about it, he yelled at me. He said that it didn't matter if I found the child's parents, they still belonged to the royal family, so I should drop it. Things have mended between us, but I still feel upset that he did that. He'll do so many other things for me if it's something I want selfishly, but not when I want to help someone else. Sorry, I just feel increasingly frustrated. It seems like Martlet and I are raising a kid together, which isn't how I wanted to be spending my early adulthood. Nero's relatives have also made ill-mannered comments about it too. The humans here seem off-put by the idea of monsters and humans being married or having families together. They'll joke that we've adopted Kiddo, or that we're a married couple of some kind. I really don't like it, as Martlet is my friend and she's a lot older than me. Every day I feel less like a guest in this place and more like I'm supposed to be the decor. At least I have Martlet, Dog, and Kiddo to keep me company. I've been spending more time in my apartment with them rather than going out. I'm sorry if this letter sounds more bitter than my previous ones. If you're reading my letters, that is. I really could use word, or a sign, or anything from you right now. Just to know that you're thinking about me. Maybe I'm just partially upset about something that happened last night. Rivaldo is celebrating a special season called Carnival. It's a time when folks, though primarily the nobles, wear costumes and masks and go about in public, particularly at night. They call it a time of anonymity, where nobles can hang loose, be mischievous, and do things they wouldn't otherwise do. I think it's just a time for them to be assholes. I notice that the normal city folk don't get such pleasure. If your costume isn't particularly valuable, you're likely to get your mask ripped off and sent to jail if you offend the wrong person. So much for anonymity. Martlet's friend warned her that it wasn't safe time for women or children to be roaming about and urged her to keep Kiddo inside until Carnival ended. I should have taken that warning myself. Ever since the first night when I blacked out, I've been careful about any alcohol I drank. I never want to black out like that again, especially if Martlet isn't around to protect me. But, I admit, I let myself be a little loose when Nero invited me to a party one evening. I started to feel some tension in our relationship, so for him to go out of his way to ask me, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to mend the rift between us. Though he had had a costume made for me, it really wasn't doing much to hide my identity. It was made of the same purple and silver that I normally wear, with a crescent moon mask. Yeah, you so can't tell who I am, can you? Sorry, I'm being facetious. Anyway, I thought things were starting well. The party was fun. Just about all the best-dressed people were there, dancing, making small talk, and drinking. I allowed myself 2 glasses of wine, but wouldn't accept any more. Then, one of Nero's friends suggested that our host had better wine, and that it was being hoarded away in the cellar. I had already decided I wasn't going to drink anymore, but I pretended I could be convinced, if only not to be bothered about it. Next thing I knew, I was roped into putting some guards to sleep to help Nero and his friends sneak into the catacombs. I recently mastered the sleep spell, being able to demonstrate it on a cat in the lecture hall. Nero had been struggling with it, but I think that's because he's too embarrassed to fail the spell while others are watching. Back to the party, why our host's private cellar wasn't on his personal property, I couldn't begin to tell you. I kept a narrow shadow as usual, as I never got the impression that his other friends liked me very much. I didn't want to draw any more attention from them than I normally do. When they started grabbing bottles and popping corks, sure enough I was offered to drink, but I only pretended, lifting the bottle to my mouth but not swallowing. I was determined not to lose control of myself this time. They seemed convinced. However, when we were leaving and heading back to the party, one of Nero's friends tricked me into getting closer to the canal before another kicked me in the back, throwing me in. I screamed and cried for help, but only heard them laughing. I saw Nero laughing before he and the others walked away. It was cold and dark. It's been a long time since I've been so frightened. I struggled to find anything to hold on to as the water's flow got the better of me. My bones felt numb, but I managed to find a pole to cling to. Disoriented, I really couldn't tell where I was and was too afraid to let go to find the stairs. Even though I was shivering in the cold water and scared out of my wits, I felt the best thing to do was hold on until someone found me. I called out several times, but no one came. As I clung there, my fear turned to anger. I was so mad at Nero for leaving me behind. What was this? What were we? I thought I was his best friend. Why would he do this to me? Eventually Nero did return, but he was alone and called out for me. The tone in his voice completely different, as if he suddenly cared. But the contrast from earlier was so striking. I no longer believed his change in attitude. Still, he pulled me out, throwing his cloak around me and offered to take me back to the palace. I agreed, but was quietly brewing in rage, especially as he put his arm around me, pretending to care. In my head, I was trying to catch up to all the things I would say to him, or what I would say to him. Somewhere between wanting to scream and wanting to cry, I didn't realize he pulled me into his apartment instead of my own. A little stunned by the audacity, he started taking off my clothes. I pushed him off, saying I would do it myself. But what was I even going to wear? His clothes were much bigger than mine. He said something about not being a big deal before tossing me one of his shirts. It wasn't until after this happened that I really thought about what might have been happening. I took off the rest of my clothes before putting on the shirt and was about to leave. He said something about how cute I looked and that I should stay so he could keep me warm. I told him no and went to leave when he grabbed my arm. I wasn't having it, and I summoned a knife into my hand. He let go, his hands up in defense. He said he was only joking and wondered if I'd actually stab him. My head felt hot with fury. I don't think I answered before stomping back to my apartment. Martlet was there, waiting up for me. She asked me how the party was and what happened to my costume. I don't know why, but I just started crying. She wrapped her wings around me to calm me down and asked what was wrong. But I just cried, and I couldn't bring myself to tell her. Realizing I was still wearing his shirt, I felt disgusted, throwing it off before putting on my own evening wear. Everything that had happened, I wasn't able to put to words yet. I haven't gotten any sleep since that night, and I feel like I just need to write this down for my own sake. It's been a few days since I wrote this letter. I've been debating sending it to you, as you might read it and be worried about me. Nero came to apologize for what he did, but I'm still angry at him. I've told him to leave me alone unless he had a legitimate reason for our studies. He stopped showing up for the university lectures. I really don't trust him anymore, but despite our problems, his family doesn't seem deterred from hosting me. I plan on focusing on my studies from now on, no more parties. Still, I await any word from you. I miss you. Sincerely, Nightmare. July. Dear Dream, by the time you read this, you'll already know a civil war has begun in Rivaldo. I've already asked about returning home, but the king says the roads are unsafe and that it's better that I remain here. He asked me to send word to Asgore to inquire if there's any troops or funds he can spare to bring things back to normal. That's if my letters are even reaching home. Nero's eldest brother, the Crown Prince Dario, was killed by a rebel mob in one of the eastern territories. His wife and child are being held captive. I only met with the couple a few times, as Dario travels a lot to conduct his father's duties. Admittingly, I feel rather numb to the situation. Keeping to my studies, I've started to work as an assistant to the professors. I've already conducted several classes on my own. The students are bright and inquisitive. I think if I ever had the chance, a real chance at it, I would want to become a professor as well. The brightness you see in a student's eyes when they finally understand a complicated subject. I feel my soul fill with pride every time it happens. Nero hasn't been to the university once since Carnival happened. I'm both relieved by this, but also disappointed. I've been thinking a lot. Was he ever actually interested in studying magic, or just indulging in my company? I hear noises across the hall from his apartment. He's been taking the company of random women of late. Some noble, some not. It doesn't matter to me, except that when they make noise at night. The king thinks it's good for him, as he might be trying to find a bride. I think he's doing it to get on my nerves. I take that back. It hasn't been happening recently, not after Dario was killed. Let me delay a moment. I don't want to think about Nero right now. Kiddo was finally able to spell their name for us. They wrote the name Frisk. Seems like such an odd name, but I've been trying to use it more when referring to them. I'm just so used to calling them Kiddo, but they don't seem to mind. We've noticed that Frisk has made vocalizations before, so we don't think that they're entirely mute, but we're also not pressuring them to talk either. I had the idea to teach them sign language. I'd read about it several years ago, and it took me months to find a book on it. They really like making symbols with their hands, and it's been enjoyable using it between the three of us. Martlet struggles a little since her hands are covered in feathers, but she insists on using it. It's like our own secret code, she says. Still, a growing kid like Frisk should be in school and around other kids their own age, and especially in the care of a real family. There's no public schools in Rivaldo. Children who are without means are usually taught how to do their parents' trade, and that's all. And I can't insist on having Frisk tutored, since they are still technically in service to the crown. Still, Martlet and I refute it, and have been trying to educate Frisk regardless. She's found some children down by the river who will play with them and dog to keep them company. Martlet has abandoned her puzzle projects. I don't think she's abandoned the idea of making puzzles, but simply that there really isn't anywhere she can build real puzzles to test them out. Still, I think she's been enjoying spending time with Frisk. No matter what's happening, she's always got a smile on her beak. She'd make a great mom one day if she ever chooses to be one. Dog is shedding. Oh God's dog is shedding. Frisk and Martlet have been diligently keeping the apartment clean, but once in a while I wake up with fur in my nose and in the middle of the night. I suppose I do have to write about Nero, don't I? In short, he hasn't taken the news of his brother's death very well, let alone his nephew and sister-in-law being captive. Of course he hasn't. I don't know why I thought he would be that heartless. It's his brother. On the day we heard the news, I heard a wail from his apartment. Just before I could step out, a servant brought the news to my door. I saw Nero rush off to the middle brother's apartment in the opposite wing. It didn't feel right to exclude myself, so I threw on a robe and followed. Within a few moments, we were all gathered in the king's study. The family was in mourning, and I just stood back. It was painful to see them like that, but I couldn't look away, and I couldn't provide any comfort. Outraged, the king swore vengeance on the rebels and that Dario's wife and child would be rescued. Breakfast came early, but most of us couldn't eat anything. I only had a cup of coffee, as I knew I'd be drowsy without it. The public execution that morning was cancelled, the first time that had ever happened. Of course, the king was too focused on where he planned to send his soldiers. There was a short fight between Nero and the king. Nero wanted to leave with the soldiers to hunt down his brother's killers, but the king wouldn't let him or his brother leave. Nero insisted he was a strong enough mage to defend himself, but the king felt he was too valuable to put at any risk. He stomped back to his apartment in rage, and I followed. I don't know why, but I felt I had to comfort him, even if things weren't the same between us. I had come here under the assumption of being his friend. And, as the entire family was in mourning, all I could do was think of you. I know, due to our souls, I'll never experience it, but I can't imagine the pain of losing you. I went into his room to talk to him and let him hold me to cry. He didn't try to pull anything, so I know he was really devastated. I'd stay with him the rest of the day, talking things out, not only between us, but how much his eldest brother meant to him. Dario was like a second father to him, looking after him and the others when his parents wouldn't. I understood what that's like, with us and Asgore and Toriel. It wasn't any wonder how much he wanted to rescue his sister-in-law and nephew. Things have gotten better, but they're not the same. He's more serious about his studies, and has finally allowed me to instruct him on healing magic. Since I'm helping him to catch up, I haven't been back to the university for a week. I imagine it's going to be this way for a while, but I don't mind studying independently with him. I'm not sure what else to say. There's so much I could, but I prefer to keep it to myself. I hope you don't mind. My heart and my mind feel twisted up like a wet rag that won't wring its water. It's starting to mold. I hope you're not angry at me. It's unusual that I haven't got a single word from you, or Asgore or Toriel or anyone. I could really use your words right now. My past, our childhood, it's starting to feel like a fading memory. My bones ache for the tree. I see you less in my dreams now, replaced by... Never mind. I want to come home. Your brother, Nightmare. December. To dream. Chaos in the city. There's a bread shortage. The townsfolk have gotten restless. It's not safe to leave the palace. Executions have increased in number every day. Yesterday, 20 men lost their heads. Today it was 23. Shipments to the palace have been stalled, so we're lacking wood and coal for the fireplaces. It's bitterly cold. Nero has gone to help the city guards get control of the mobs. There will be no festival this year. Please send word. Nightmare. May. Dear Dream, forgive me for not writing for so long. I suspect this is less of a letter and more of a diary that disappears once handed to the butler. Every day feels exhausting. It's been difficult to find any words, and if any of this managed to reach you, I would hate to make you worry. Happy birthday, by the way. We're both 20 now. 2 decades of being alive, isn't that something? How is everyone? I think so much of home that I make myself sick. I miss you and Toriel and Asgore and everyone else. I feel sorry that I ever left home. This was a stupid idea. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to write. I just want to get out of this place. I can feel the walls screaming all my mistakes back at me. I don't know why I'm apologizing. You're not reading this anyway, are you? Fuck it, I'm not starting this letter over. I've been running out of paper. Kiddo has only started to feel better. If you recall, their fever over the winter almost took their life. Martlet and I had to fight tooth and nail to prevent them from being sent to the sanatorium. Martlet's friends told her that the place is a death trap where the ill never return. We practically had to bar ourselves in the apartment to stop the guards from spiriting them away. Dog hasn't left the child's side for a moment. There were several close calls when we thought we'd lost them. Even once the fever broke, they were extremely weak, unable to walk or eat very well. And the coughing, I felt my own chest ache every time they couldn't breathe. Nira left the palace back in March along with his brother to hunt the rebels. I feel ashamed to say it, but it's such a relief that he's not around. I understand that he's suffering. After Dario's wife was rescued, his baby nephew did not survive the return to the palace. After that, she was quickly sent off to a convent because the king said she was no longer of use. I can't stand this cruelty, the cruelty of humans. Her screams still haunt me when the king had her dragged away. She was his son's wife. How could he do that to her? Never mind. It's not my business. I don't want to be involved with any of this anymore. I still lack the funds to make the return trip home. Asgore hasn't sent anything, nor any aid to Rivaldo, for the war. In fact, I've heard no news of Edenfall at all. It's as if it doesn't exist. Martlet doesn't smile as much anymore. It's impossible to make light of most things that have been happening. I asked the king if he would allow us to leave with the appropriate funds and the promise of repayment, but he refused, once again citing that it would be unsafe for me to travel. I don't think I care if it's safe or not. I want to get the hell out of this place. Martlet has been sneaking off into the city to do odd jobs and earn some coin. It won't be enough. I told her it would take years to raise enough money to get us home, but she said she didn't care. I have to do something other than wasting away. Honestly, I wish I could do the same. The university has been shut for several months. The king suspects there are traitors among the professors, having most of them arrested and interrogated. The guards won't let me leave the palace. The only way Martlet has been getting out is by flying out our window at night. I've occupied my own time by continuing to teach Frisk sign language. They've caught on to it much better now that they aren't having brain fog. I've told them all about you, the tree in our home. They say they wish they could leave Rivaldo and live in such a wonderful place. I think I would want that for them too. I've come to despise Rivaldo. The university was the only bright spot in this horrid place, and now even it's been taken from me. It feels like these walls are aging me faster each day. I'm a prisoner to the bars I've walked into and tossed away the key from the inside. I miss you. I find myself whispering those words to myself over and over like some mantra keeping me sane. Sometimes I'm not even thinking of you when I say it. It's just become natural as breathing. I miss you. I want to come home. I'll never do anything this foolish ever again. I'll never leave. I'll make whatever promises I must to never be in a place like this ever again. I'm running out of space on this page, yet I feel the precious need to fill it up with something, anything. Let's go to the ocean together, be pirates just like you wanted. I don't think I could ever travel again without you with me. This is misery. It feels like my emotions are eating themselves like a raging cannibal. Is this hell? Have I been punished enough for my trespasses? What do I have to do to get the fuck out of here? Every night I have a nightmare, an irrational fear that one day I'm going to wake up human and that you and our home never existed. Looking at the bones in my hand and my face in the mirror, it feels like the only evidence I have left that you were real. I have to get out of here, somehow. Your brother, Nightmare.